before we get started, I actually did some research into something and I figured I'd explain it a bit before we go any further. So, Eleanor was commenting about the previous company with their whole catapult thing not working for a slew of reasons. So the first of which she mentioned was, well, if they missed the landing site. And that's primarily what I actually want to talk about, because the other ones don't really matter as much. So if they miss the landing site, one of two things will happen. They'll either land on the empty territory of the moon, which is supposed to be government-owned and supposedly frowned upon, because I guess they have to send out a truck or something to then bring in the cargo. The second one is, what if it hits the dome itself? So if you're wondering what the problem is that I had with this comment is, if you actually are aware with the amount of meteor activity on the moon, those domes should be extremely resilient in the first place. There is no atmosphere on the moon. As such, that means there's nothing for the meteors to burn up in when they're trying to enter like they can on Earth. Because if you didn't know, Earth actually gets hit by a lot of meteors too. It's just most of them burn up in the atmosphere until they're pebbles or dust. The moon does not have that, so in which case the domes have to be prepared to actually be on the receiving end of a meteor strike. Now, the size could vary, and the problem I have with this is the meteor should have a lot more power behind it than whatever this cargo is. And the secondary fact is the size aspect, because the more power there is and the smaller the object, the more destructive force there is. So basically it'll be like a bullet where it will just pierce through something, while if it's large enough it can actually pretty much bounce off of something. So the thing that I was thinking about is, how could they actually address meteors to where those won't be a problem, but the whole cargo being launched out of a catapult would? So for the size of the cargo, this too would come into play. More often than not, I imagine it's it might be the size of a storage car on a train. That's kind of how I'm depicting it, and even still, that should bounce off of the dome. If they fire it correctly, that is. The dome itself can't be made out of glass. It's going to have to be made out of some sort of plastic polymer so that it'll actually flex when hit. And I don't think the whole problem of the cargo hitting the dome is as serious as Eleanor made it out to be. Now, for the meteor aspect, it's possible they could have weapons in place to try to destroy those when they get close, but the thing is, what do they actually have? Because, yes, guns can fire in space, it's just they have a fraction of the destructive power they'd have on Earth. Explosives, not quite as capable. So, the only thing they'd have would have to be either some sort of laser weapon, which hasn't been addressed at all, and the secondary one is they actually have to launch a rock or something at it to try to knock it aside and then hope the rock falling doesn't actually pose a threat to this dome. So I don't know if this is going to be addressed later, if it's actually some sort of plot hole the dev didn't think about, but the whole thing about the catapult, it should not be anywhere near as dangerous as Eleanor tried to make it out to be. And then if the cargo itself is actually smaller than how I'm imagining it, because let's face it, they could actually do just multiple shots of smaller stuff, then the threat is even smaller. Anyway, I don't really want to ramble on too much further, so let's just get into things. Remember those people Suro had gathered for the optimism gauging program? Without us even asking, they sent us tableted version one after another. And because they knew Chris understood the formulas and algorithms and could decipher the program, they went all out. Or so I was told. I say so I was told because I'm not too clear on all the details. I just knew that the amount of time Chris was spending at the office had gone down. She stared at those programs and formulas right up until bedtime. Or rather, she grumbled over them until Risa ran out of patience. When she wasn't sleeping or praying, she was staring at her tablet, biting her stylus and pinching at her chin. It wasn't clinical like it was with Agana, but she was certainly engrossed in it. Even as I was checking over the companies extracted from the program, Chris was sitting next to me on the weak-springed, flat-cushioned sofa. Numerous monitors were open, using both keystrokes and stylus as she revised and decoded. She had a special textbook open for reference. I'm told there are crazy theses in it that haven't even been published yet. She had this because Suro, having gotten his doctorate from Lunar City University, was still on record as an active researcher, so he borrowed a login for their thesis database. Situations like this made it very clear to me that connections are a major part of one's assets. Crawling the net for information is conceptually fine, but... Chris was resting her tablet on her lap, staring into it. When I said that, she perked up and looked over at me. It's hard to use, especially the anonymous boards. Those are no good. But the reasons for the sharp rises and declines are pointed out here, right? The same thing was pointed out from version 2.21, collecting the rumors, classifying them, then comparing it chronologically with the frequency of sudden rise/fall. I am not seeing a correlation between the number of rumors and the frequency of steep price rise/decline. Basically, those rumors were randomly written there to mess with people. But I did calculate out the estimated prices if all rumors were taken seriously at the point when a news rumor surfaces, and it ended up being a plus. Rumor Factor Index. The yield of the Stock Factor Index was calculated assuming the cases of all stocks being invested, so assuming all rumors were invested into would mean that it should be called a Rumor Factor Index. But a monkey could do that. If he was going to invest, then they would toss out all the crappy brands pushing up the factor index. However, why shouldn't you do that even though the expected worth is a plus? Chris looked at me, but I just shrugged. The number of brands and the performance. 522 brands and 22% in half a year. Normally, it wasn't too bad earning 22% while investing thoughtlessly, if you're thinking in normal terms anyway. The real factor index yields should be about the same. Pick as many brands as the rumor one and select at random, ignoring the rumors, then calculate out the predicted worth. It should give about the same numbers. Oh. The more rumors there are, the closer to the actual factor index they should be. I'm not saying she was a one-trick pony, but even though she had the capacity to apply numerous ideas into actual equations, it was hard for her to take a step back and think. Looking at things as a whole was very difficult. It's the same with the charity group applications for financial assistance. Even if their paperwork was perfect, it's obvious that the amount of people written in the documentation couldn't fit inside that small of a building. Raina couldn't realize that. I do think I figured out the trick of analyzing company websites, though. What? After putting her shin on the edge of her tablet, she squeaked and lifted her head suddenly. That part there is what I understand the least. There are few sample words and so much that doesn't make out from the statistical processes. Yet you're able to deliberately pick brands very statistically. Everyone just tilts their heads like, what magic is this? This data. Oh, the keyword analysis? But this didn't really have any meaning. No, it does. I only have a vague grasp on it myself. What? Chris peered into my screen. A tuft of her hair touched my nose, tickling it. I don't understand at all, though. I'll just count the numbers out. Look at the types. Types? Yes, sentences can still be sentences even if you cut words out, right? For example, me, you, bite a chunk, like that. I grasped onto Chris's head with my hand as I said that. Chris giggled, then pulled back. Yeah, but so what? I noticed when I was looking at the words separated out and ranked. These guys, they only talk about themselves. What? For example, this. I pulled up one corporation's page. It showed a photo of a bald, heavy-set, energetic-looking CEO. I came to lunar surface because I found a wonderful method to beat out the rest of the surface industry. I believe when my company makes that a reality, I'll improve the efficiency on the moon and my company will continue to grow. Yeah? This is standard. It could stand to notch up with the crazy a bit. Chris really didn't get it. I had no reason to pressure her, so I soon gave her the answer. There's a much simpler example. Try imagining the main figure for a company that you can remember the name of. Okay? Now, try imagining the name of a brand that comes up in your program often that has strong credentials. Basically, one that I like. Huh? Don't match, do they? Chris looked at me confused. All that data was, regardless how you extract it, was simply a collection. And for the work one must do in selecting from the swarm of stocks and investing, there are companies you'd recognize if they were mentioned, but were unable to actually recall unless you had heard their name. So what do companies do if they have no credentials but want people to remember them? They put their president in the spotlight and have him rave. So, the companies they think could afford to be more crazy would have something in common. Have a quick glance at these words. I, succeed, grow, certainly believe. Say I shuffle them around. I certainly succeed, grow, believe. Imagine some foreigner speaking those words brokenly at the top of a corporate page. What would you think? Chris looked at me and found her mouth formed a half smile. Now, look at the words used by brands I like. We, everyone, definitely, development, cooperation, and improvement. Actually, starting with I versus we can have a completely different impression. It's easy to tell if it's a corporation powerfully pushing everyone forward, or if it's a one-man show that really sees its employees as tools, right? But I is easier to understand. Which would you choose? Being told, look at me, believe me, I succeed, or please look at us, believe us, we shall succeed? Chris looked at me a bit and then gave her answer hesitantly. I. Right. People have clearer memories for faces than groups, so for companies where you can't remember the name of their president, their logo is a recognizable alternative. But to those guys working fervently in the stock market, I'll only go from one easily understandable thing to the next. I is the word they use there. When Chris had finished listening to my explanation, she let out a breath as if spilling out everything in her chest. Her gaze, as it drifted slowly back to the monitor, betrayed that she'd never even thought of such a thing before. I never noticed the stuff unrelated to the numbers, Haru. You really are amazing. Chris said that and smiled, sitting on the couch with her knees pointing outward as she clutched her tablet. Her angelic, or perhaps innocent, expression exuded boundless tenderness. Risa once said that Chris is just like the sun. I felt I sort of understood what she'd meant by that. No, but that's just... One's manner of speech betrays one's personality. Your big sis is glad you finally understand that. Risa seemed to appear from nowhere, poking me in the back of the head with something round. I was just about to say that, actually. Goodness, my apologies then. Risa was about to head back off to the church, still smiling. I thought of telling her to stop treating me like a kid, but I remembered something, so I called to her as her back was turned to me. That's right. Eleanor said the apple pie was delicious. Goodness. She said she'd love if you could make another. Really? I was a bit worried since there are tons of good pastry shops in that area. Yeah, she was probably just being polite. Risa's face twitched a little when I said that, but she still just shrugged her shoulders and made her way back towards the church. Risa's apple pie is really good. Eleanor looked genuinely happy. She didn't seem to be acting. My joke didn't seem to sit well with Chris. She got a bit miffed and said she'd tell Risa that later. Well, that's about it. I'm sure the precision will increase if we gather enough information along these lines. Yes, I'll tell them so, but... When I looked over at Chris, I saw she'd begun giggling again as she typed. Thinking back, you were really gruff 4 years ago. Is that so? I agree to some extent that my way of speaking was rather vulgar, but I didn't remember it being that bad. It was. You talked like you were always busy and in a rush. I'm not sure I quite understand. That was 4 years ago. It's more like you've grown up. Chris said that as she looked up at me with a wicked grin. This was probably payback for the conversation at Avalon. She was being so cheeky I couldn't help myself. When I pinched Chris's cheek, she squeaked and sank her head into her shoulders as she laughed. But yeah, it's true. I have grown a bit. That should have been impossible alone. Chris's face looked silly, like a reflection in a curved mirror as I tugged at her soft cheek. Yet her eyes were so intelligent and a beautiful blue. Laughing kindly, she took my hand. That's right, you're not alone. 4 years ago I was defeated and stuck in a pit of hell, losing Hagano, whose hand once grasped mine. I felt like I had lost everything, but that wasn't the case. Risa helped me, Chris stayed by me, even Suru had shown support, and my parents didn't disown this foolish child of theirs. I wasn't here by my strength alone. I really did feel that the hint of word analysis was mainly because of what Risa had said to me. When she would imitate me and repeat my words back, I could tell when I sounded arrogant and foolish. Even the program Chris is tweaking right now, without being connected to others, it never could have been created. Working together with someone must have been at least as fun for Chris as just inputting stuff into her tablet. I don't think that was all that bad. I don't think it was because my dreams of going to an unexplored world failed. It's better to have someone at your side. More than that, I realize that, even if you go to an unexplored world, you should be able to look back and see a lot of people supporting you. As I thought along those lines, I suddenly realized something. I fiddled with my tablet and checked my email. An email from Eleanor had come. The apple pie from yesterday was quite delicious. I ended up eating the whole thing myself. Please convey my compliments to Risa. On an unrelated note, I'll try gathering more data on my end. If there's any data or information you'd like, please contact me. I have faith that with your eye you'll be able to see something I have not. P.S. Would it be possible to have her make me another apple pie? It was truly delicious. My apologies for the abrupt dinner invitation. It had been quite a while, and it was splendid. No need for word analysis there. I know what kind of room Eleanor was in when she typed out that email. But I had been forced to realize something by rereading it. Eleanor was really alone. Certainly if one was to look around like Risa did, they'd probably be able to find numerous stores with a good apple pie. The fact that she'd asked Risa despite this made me sense something else. Also, in regards to dinner, I was likely treated to an unbelievably expensive meal, and undoubtedly Eleanor was busier than me. Of course, just as I jokingly said to Risa, social obligations factored into the way the email was written, but I had certainly heard it directly from Eleanor's mouth. Right now, it's impossible all by myself. Just like my rebound from 4 years ago wouldn't have been impossible all by myself. But neither Marco nor Legoff were in that room, and the only break she had was being in front of that aquarium in the cafe. I also recalled that conversation in the car as we headed to the restaurant. Eleanor had conviction, and she was bracing herself for it to be realized, but in real life, you encountered friction just by living. It could be that the massive amount of medicine on Eleanor's desk wasn't just for all the hard work she does. In the church ran by Risa, in the living room with Chris and Risa, I relaxed as I inspected the data. Eleanor is working in a cutthroat world where huge sums pass back and forth, forcing herself to act completely against her nature in front of a camera. Just seeing that room showed me that Eleanor is leading an impossible lifestyle. I didn't, however, see that whole image clearly. I quickly became worried about Eleanor. "What's the matter?" Chris unexpectedly asked. Even though I was expressionless, she could tell. No, just remembered something. "What is it?" Chris looked at me innocently. I wasn't stuck on what to say. Rather, this was something I couldn't talk to Chris about. Even if I was worried about Eleanor, what could I possibly do? Thinking of that, I realized I didn't know what kind of job Eleanor was doing, nor the basics of it. Yeah? You know, analysts. Oh, I have that data. I should say they're expected to have good returns. I believe... No, not that. Chris was a bit confused and looked at me. There was one person that came to mind from that. I got up from the couch and made my way to the church. Risa was doing her daily cleaning in the church when she realized I was there. She looked at me like she hadn't been expecting me. Goodness, yes. There's someone I'd like to get in contact with. What? Do you know, Mr. Toyama? I felt a bit cautious and added a title. He was the moneylender that had lent Risa money back then. Risa paused from cleaning and looked at me. There was something I wanted to ask him. Risa looked like she was going to say something, but in the end didn't. I wouldn't tell her that I noticed her eyes going down to look at my right hand. "Oh, how have you been?" That gloomy mug showed up on the other side of the monitor. "I can see the moon clearly tonight from my room. Unfortunately, I can't see the lunar capital." Toyama disappeared from the monitor for a few moments and was back. He might have opened his room's curtain. "Sorry for calling late." "Sorry? That's new." Toyama laughed happily. When I first met Toyama, I intimidated him and twisted his arm. Toyama had a career and a few years on me, but thereafter I always looked down on him. I regret that a bit now. He certainly was rather sullen, but I did think Toyama was a pretty cool adult. So, what is it? Thinking of becoming a moneylender? No, there's something I'd like to ask about banking. Toyama used to work on a bank in Terra before becoming a moneylender on the moon. There was a bit of lag and I could see a surprised expression on his face. Thinking of investing into banks on Terra? I'd like to ask about what investment banking involves. After a brief lag on that low frame rate screen, Toyama appeared surprised. This transmission was to Terra, so there'd be a bit of an unavoidable lag. Risa and Chris were next to me, having given a collective question mark as they listened to me speak. Investment banking. I was in commercial banking, you see. Not sure I could teach you, but I know quite a bit about it. I'd like to know about an analyst's duties. I could sense Chris and Risa behind me looking at each other. Analysts, they're rather popular there. They show up on TV every so often here, too. Do you know about it? Well, the gist, but what would you like to ask about? What do they do? Honestly, I wasn't sure what I wanted to ask either. With things being in the state they were, Toyama took up a pensive expression, replying as soon as he came up with an answer. What he blurted out next was intense. Frankly, they're slaves. Slaves? Yeah. Brokerage are on the selling side. As the term suggests, they sell things like bonds and securities. An analyst's job is to do company analysis reports to sell those bonds or securities from dawn to dusk. They're locked in windowless rooms doing those company analysis reports, making those reports that nobody will see or read day in and day out. It was a bit different from what I knew them as. Do they do company ratings? That's if they're raised up from being a slave to being a commoner. Ratings generally are what investment banks give to clients. If you get that sort of stuff in the mail, you don't read it, right? He chuckled as he said that to me, and I nodded in agreement. When you're talking about an analyst skilled enough for people to pay attention to, more or less they write reports saying certain stocks will make money because of this thing or that thing. Using that, the brokers and the bank will work from that report and call up clients. Sort of a, like, yeah, our analysis picked up a good stock and, well, type of thing. What about an incredibly good analyst? An incredibly good analyst? That's the same as a red herring. You think they exist, but they don't. But skilled analysts become traders. That's because they know what the good brands are. Or they take their own report selling stock results to clients becoming star businessmen. If not, then they transfer over to consulting firms. Normally one does not stay an analyst for long. Why is that? If you don't make money in investment banking, you won't become important. Simple logic. Right. What rang true in that sector was neither fairness nor understanding, neither logical soundness nor a decree by the Almighty. Money was its own justice. I think I get now what you wanted to hear. You want to ask about those popular analysts that show up on TV, right? Yes. Those are exceptional cases that have come out about only recently. I don't think their job description has changed, though. They are still just manure for investment banks to grow food. The reason they're showing up on TV is because that fame makes it easier for brokers to sell to clients. Did you see the Market Watch last Sunday about that stock our popular famous analyst what's-his-name recommended? Like that. Or maybe you know they've been pulling in those new stock listings, right? Yes, that. I want to know that part. Like I said, analysts write reports for investment banks to sell something. Then they collect their ridiculously large handling fee for the investment bank to list the stock, but in exchange, they seek to be able to safely sell that stock. Analysts desperately write good reports for that to happen, never praise for their profit reciprocity, honestly. Actually, there should be rules that whatever bank assists in new stock listings is required to send out reports for that corporation about every month or so. Well, in truth, it's not a law, but a self-imposed regulation by the Trade Association. Profit reciprocity. Yeah, obvious, isn't it? All the bank is doing is collecting the handling fee, so they have enough motive to lie through their teeth. Buying stocks is all an individual's responsibility as well, so even if the price falls after that, it's not their concern. Refusing to assist them because they were a typical fraudulent corporation. Just as an example. Let's say there's a company that commissions an investment bank to list their stock because they want a popular analyst seal of approval. That's possible? But the popular analyst refuses that job because the corporation what the corporation handles is terrible. What would happen? If they could, then it'd probably feel wonderful. Toyama said that happily. It's the same thing as telling off that one boss who just pushes all the hard work onto you. You'd feel great on the spot, but imagine what will happen the next day. I said so earlier, didn't I? Those who make money are just. You don't even need to think about what's going to happen to those who aren't making money, but essentially throwing it away. Famous analysts are displayed pretty brilliantly, but it's undoubtedly brutal internally. Lots of buyouts and new list presentations happening, right? It's an industry with hundreds of millions, if not billions of moles in circulation. Large sums can measure up into the tens of billions of moles. Investment banks want those types of jobs to collect their handling fee. It's likely that investment banks are creating those popular analysts so they can be famous and actually move the stock prices for clients. Like, if you use our analysts, they can do it on a whim. A rush of horror spread over me. I got the feeling this wasn't all that different from human trafficking. It's an awful industry, honestly. It's like they boiled down the lunar surface to its primal elements. Having fled the outer district of Terra, Toyama averted his eyes and spoke. In truth, commercial banking might look languid in comparison to investment banking, but there's trust with the clients. Toyama had said that lending money wasn't a correspondence of money, but a correspondence of trust. But with investment banking, someone is always fooling someone else. Corporations fool analysts so they increase stock worth, analysts fool brokers so they can have higher ratings and get out of slavery, and brokers fool clients because they make their commission by selling stocks. Then everyone fools the consumer. Don't approve? Toyama peered through his screen at me as we spoke. Consumers are fooling themselves. It ends up being the consumers looking at these strange corporations and buying their stocks. I won't try to dissuade you. I understand wanting to become one of those elegant popular analysts, but... No, that's not it. Oh, is that so? Well, if you're thinking about entering the financial sector, running a small bank has its difficulties, but is rather enjoyable. You know clients for dozens of years. A bank can easily go under if a borrower skips towns. Naturally, the relationship stays friendly. It's fun, doing something with someone else. Toyama said that and appeared to look off into the distance. Then he gave a small yawn. I remember that it was already nighttime over there. Sorry for pulling you into a long call so late. Nah, you know. It does feel pretty strange, you being so worried about me. Toyama laughed when he said that. I recall that I had pressured Toyama and spoken brazenly at him, and could only hang my head in shame. But it's been a while, and it was nice talking to you, so can you put Risa on for a bit? Sure, thanks. Not at all. Toyama waved. I got up from the chair and motioned to Risa, who was in the corner of the room. There hadn't been any sort of wall between her and our conversation. Risa looked at me, a bit perplexed, but sat in the chair and began speaking with Toyama. I left the room, giving a small sigh. Chris came out after all was said and done. Were you talking about Eleanor? Yeah. I gave that short answer and went over the conversation with Toyama in my mind. Brutal world. Large sums in circulation. No way that couldn't be true. Yet when I'd heard that Eleanor rejected the trade proposal, all I could think about was how hard her job was. What was the reality of the situation? Did she cause tension with the others around her? Ridiculous. It was 1 billion moles worth of tension. It pained my heart how overjoyed Eleanor was over that apple pie. Even though I felt like an idiot, handed to her wrapped in cloth in the middle of a fancy restaurant, she didn't appear bothered at all. So overjoyed, like a child stealing a glance into a Christmas present. Eleanor was being overwhelmed with the sheer amount of work. On top of that, her convictions were being tested. Because of Eleanor's position, her employer made her give bad companies good reviews. But what transpired to send Eleanor's company under? Wasn't it just that kind of report that did it? If that's true, then it was certainly against Eleanor's sense of righteousness to give good ratings to fraudulent corporations, taking part in stuffing shit down the throat of people to collect their cut. And Eleanor had really rejected it. But I was terribly mistaken as to what that decision would bring about. With her being so popular, I was sure she was treated like a god in her own company as well. Eleanor's lithe body, nestled on that desk, the amount of work and all of that pressure. I recalled the terrible state of that room of hers. Howard? Yeah, just going to go send an email. Not able to stay still, I returned to my room and pulled up my tablet. When I set out to write the email, I paused. Even though I felt that I wanted to help Eleanor, I had no idea what I could do. All that I was capable of doing was looking up stuff about Avalon. But I wasn't a corporate analytics specialist. I wasn't even a finance specialist. I was only good at guessing if stock prices would go up or down. It was always like this for me. Even if I could understand the superficial, I could only give superficial assistance. But the moment I began to care for someone, I realized how powerless I was. I thought I was closest to Ghana in this entire world, but turns out I didn't even know her real name. Even still, I wrote the email. Menial tasks, cleaning the room, anything would be fine if it could help her. A very irritating thought came to mind. Was I confusing Eleanor for her Ghana? It was a hard prospect to get out of my head. I didn't want to see anyone else I knew miserable. I didn't want her to have regrets, thinking she should have done it this way or that. I ignored my stiffening right hand and typed with my left. I never stopped to think. It might just be my imagination, or I might be bothering her. It was fine as it was, and it would end there. I was just about to send an email asking if there was anything I could help with. It was at that moment that the door suddenly swung open. Haru! I thought my heart was going to leap from my chest when Chris burst into my room, cradling her tablet in her hands, then placed it down on top of my desk. There was a TV screen of a news flash on there with "Panic at Avalon HQ" written in sprawling handwriting. On TV, just now. Chris pointed to the screen. There were certainly a lot of people gathered, each proclaiming something. When I saw the picture for a brief moment, I wasn't sure where it was supposed to be. It said it was in front of Avalon headquarters, and there was that iconic building far off in the background. But all the people there were dressed in heavy clothes, and I could see their breaths. There was so much night market movement, but I can't liquidate my assets. Chris trailed off and looked at me. When I looked at Chris's tablet, I could see her losses blurring red. She couldn't liquidate because she couldn't initiate the program without being at Eleanor's office. Calm down. What happened? What is the meaning of this? She was likely panicking because she was experiencing her first posted losses and there was sporadic market movement. When I turned on the TV, there was a press conference with Emerald Industries on, but more importantly, Emerald Industries. I had thought then that they were attempting a hostile takeover. But if that was it, then why all the widespread sell orders on other stocks? They must have announced something that would reverberate through society. Following my usual course of action, I set up my investing tool and checked the news. My screen was filled with the words "Newsflash." I opened one of them and gasped. 7 p.m. today, Emerald Industries, ticker EIND, stock number 2201, announced startling changes to the city dome climate controls contracted by the lunar government, tentatively expected to lower the dome temperature by 10 degrees. 10 degrees? Really? 10 degrees? Now keep in mind they do not specify if this is Fahrenheit or Celsius. If it is Celsius, that is freaking huge. That's like a 20-degree drop in terms of Fahrenheit. And in case you're wondering, you can feel a temperature difference around 3-4 degrees on average from person to person. The people with the most sensitive sense of feeling can do that around like 2 degrees, and we're talking 10 to 20 depending on what scale you're actually using. It's already dropping below freezing for the areas near the air controllers. They're saying it's going to get really cold around here too. Turning a blind eye to Chris as she worriedly watched the intense movements in the market, I opened a different article. In response to the sudden spike in energy costs, they are seeking to revise their contract with the government. A provisional employee of Emerald Industries cited subsection 2 of Article 3 stipulating their right to protect their assets in accordance with their corporate contract when they announced the reduction of dome temperature by 10 degrees. Emerald Industries believe that they then will be able to cover up their losses incurred by costs to maintain the dome, which exceed funding supplied per contract by the government. Emerald Industries is up 5% from the night exchange yesterday. Experts have cast a large portion of the blame on the Avalon Energy Exchange for the sudden spike in energy costs. When I looked back at the news on the tablet, the camera suddenly began shooting a still scene. It appeared to be a conference room with dozens of microphones in place and numerous chairs in the shot. You could tell quite well, with the fumbling noises, that they were right in the middle of setting up. It seems that the CEO of Avalon, Kevin Lath, was going to hold a press conference. Having taken possession of the electricity stocks, they couldn't avoid suspicions they were driving up the energy costs on the lunar surface. But but it seemed to be a bit longer before the interview, so the video quickly switched back over, a scrolling ticker summarizing the energy crisis on the moon. In the corner of the screen, they were displaying the commotion in front of Avalon's headquarters. So, yeah, this should have kind of been seen coming if people paid attention to history. The US had an energy crisis in the past when the OPEC countries basically, I don't know if you want to quite call it conspired, but they collaborated to reduce the petroleum production in their countries. As a result, that sent prices skyrocketing over the rest of the world. In case you're wondering, I believe the OPEC scare was in the early 70s. I don't remember offhand. But that's the danger that energy companies pose to pretty much everyone in modern society. Everything pretty much requires energy to work, and they probably should be a lot more regulated than they actually are. To give you an example, the most recent one I have to say would be the BP spill in the Gulf of Mexico, and I don't even know how cleanup there is progressing. It's supposed to be really, really bad. And that's actually just due to negligence. That's not actually due to conspiring like it was due to, or collaborating, I mean, as in the case of OPEC in the past. And basically there is a fear of that, even in modern society, how certain countries actually do have a stranglehold over others, just due to their control over energy. How are Avalon stocks doing? Chris looked up when I asked, splitting the terminal screen up to display Avalon's stock window, and stared into the other part as if she were praying. Avalon was up 13%. Meaning, according to the newsflash, that Emerald Industries' announcement had led people to believe there may be an energy crisis on the moon, and that electricity futures on the energy market had raised dramatically. When I looked up companies dealing with energy on my tablet, producers, transmitters, and sellers all had their prices increased. Amongst others being strung up higher were solar panel manufacturing companies and major semiconductor companies. Other companies, particularly manufacturers based on their surface, were comparatively down. I'm not even going to get into semiconductors at the moment, unless that becomes a focal point later on. Operation costs were expected to spike, so transport ones were all but decimated. It was a massacre. I gazed over that, but I was confused about one part of the state of the market. It wasn't that I was seeing widespread losses in stocks that would render the program I worked on with Chris useless. Emerald Industries expects to lower the dome temperature by 10 degrees, expecting the energy situation will become worse later on, so the prices are increasing. I gulped. That's ridiculous. All Emerald Industries, the biggest consumer, was saying was that they were going to conserve energy. Why would that cause price increases? When Emerald Industries announced they were lowering the temperature, it was because the price of energy had increased, and not because they expected the price to increase from here on out. Had they estimated that the amount of individual consumer energy consumption would increase, so they were lowering the dome temperature, hence the prices going up. That made sense. Yet to me, that looked like a terribly distorted image. I couldn't see any rationality here. The prices looked like they were moving completely based on emotion. At that moment, the TV screen on my tablet switched back over and was back in the conference room. So real quick, I should also mention, in case you're wondering about the severity of the temperature decrease, you have to realize since they're living in dome cities, their habitats, I don't even know if you want to call them houses or apartments, those are only going to be insulated for water due to rain. They are not going to be insulated for anything regarding temperature because they had no reason to in the past. That means they have no air conditioners, no heaters, no space heaters. They pretty much have nothing. And then keep in mind that all of those appliances to regulate temperature do use electricity themselves, so hopefully that puts this crisis a little bit into context for you. At that moment, the TV screen on my tablet switched back over and was back in the conference room. Kevin Lathe appeared, along with the shutter clicks and camera flashes that hadn't changed since old times. And I could talk about the shutter clicks, but we'll do that if there's ever a visual novel about taking pictures. He had a few attendants in tow, and they all took their seats with displeased looks on their faces. One of the attendants set out documents in front of Kevin, and another, a woman, fixed his hair. That was probably his legal advisor in a tight-fitting suit talking to Kevin from behind. Kevin was looking over documents the whole time, looking very upset. Seemed like he'd gotten all dressed up for a late-night party, but was suddenly called back. The interview with current CEO Kevin Lath will now begin. I could hear the voice coming from the TV monitor. Another burst of flashes and Kevin's face became even more troubled. We appreciate you gathering today on such short notice. As we're speaking into the row of microphones on the podium, he glanced back behind himself at someone and spoke to them. The person behind him checked his watch and Kevin sighed dejectedly. My apologies. Today there was an intense shift in the lunar energy situation. As we are the main administrative company on this energy stock exchange, we have significant interests in this matter. Kevin looked over the documentation again before returning to the fact sheet. He gave a deep sigh as he tossed the papers to the side and took out one of the microphones. To keep it short, people have been wondering if I've been ordering the raise in electricity prices. The answer to that is a definite no. The man behind him, who appeared to be a lawyer, had a shocked expression on her face. Likely because he tried to hand Kevin a sterilized legal document and had been refused. His expression was like that of a stubborn child's. This was his way of showing that he wasn't just reading off a script, that it was him drawing his own conclusions and saying what he wanted to say. Kevin looked into the camera as he continued. At no point in history has there ever been a consumer goods monopoly that worked. There have been countless times during consumer market history where there were plans to purchase many times the annual demand and attempts to raise the price. But they've all failed. Gold, silver, crude. In the end, they all had to abide by consumer demand. It should also be clear that as day, that it'd be impossible to buy up our main selling product, electricity. The price follows the demand too closely. Of course, our company is well aware that the rise in energy prices has caused problems for individuals, but the only thing we've been doing is instilling efficiency in the energy market in order to make the company successful. This poverty problem, isn't it up to the government to solve? I've been hearing that I should take some of my earnings and put them towards charitable endeavors, but the main focus of my company is to improve the gains of my shareholders and nothing else. That is all. Kevin ended with that, leaving the microphone and getting up from his chair. He lived up to his reputation as a man of action with his unorthodox interview. The camera tried to follow along with Kevin, but his bodyguards and other cameramen were on his heels. And Kevin vanished in an instant. So real quick, the whole gold-silver thing isn't actually a good comparison. If you're wondering why, in the end, gold and silver are literally just rocks. They have value because people say they have value. We could literally base our economy around anything other than gold if we wanted to. We can base it around tungsten, we can base it around plastic. It really doesn't matter. Now, crude and electricity, those are actual exceptions to this. Because crude oil is not exactly just a liquid, because you can burn it for energy and you actually get something else. And since energy is so important in modern society, it's not quite like gold and silver, which, as I said, are literally just rocks. So right there, I don't know if it's the CEO trying to pull over, do some sort of con job or misdirection on the people, but that alone should be setting off some alarms. There's a huge difference between energy and rocks. Screen switched over again, back to the commotion in front of Avalon headquarters. I was a little impressed by his devil-may-care attitude during this whole thing. Then I shook my head quickly. This guy certainly didn't seem like he'd use dirty tactics. He might have been gruff and frank and spoke poorly, but he was far from a sneak. Though, that might have all just been an act to get you to think that. How are your holdings doing? I asked Chris, who was next to me. Chris appeared to be a bit calmer, looking at the movement in the markets and said it settled down a little. The worst part when you post losses was when they continued. Average of 9% down. As a whole, it looks about 4%. That's just a scratch. Chris's holdings were close to 3 million moles, so 4% would be around 120,000 moles, the wage of a high earner. In actuality, that 4% was but a scratch. But Chris still stared into the monitor, aghast, as she had lost all of her money. I recalled what Risa had said. Chris was always rewarded for her efforts. She'd never failed before. Basically means she'd never experienced losses before. I would have been able to reduce the damage if I had lowered the last day carryover. I'm sure if I had carried over from the following day, this might not have happened. Chris had begun to cry as she spoke. I wanted to rub the base of her neck, tell her to look at his performance and say there's nothing to be ashamed about, but I knew that would be pointless. Losses were painful. It It was rather mysterious how one could make money overall but still post losses. Even if you know it's a possibility, you don't know when it will come to pass. You just need to be more careful from now on. And real quick to talk about this, no, this doesn't really make sense when you think about it. The key thing is just gaining more than you lose. So overall you have a net gain. You can still lose some, but the thing is you just have to lose less. It's kind of odd that Haru would even think that, since he's supposed to be a little experienced in this. I rested my hand on Chris's head. She gave a little hiccuping sob, then nodded slightly. I don't think Risa will be happy. The price is going up and everything. You're right. I just took a peek at the energy market. Looks like it's up 10%. 10. A shock reminiscent of anger welled up inside me at that number. Can you explain why, when Emerald Industries lowers the temperature by 10 degrees because they know people are spending money on heating, there's a 10% increase? I was annoyed at this absurdity. Who said the market moved in a logical manner? I see my anger showed on my expressionless face. Chris's eyes were still a damp marine blue as she looked at me curiously. If we check on the demand for electricity, it surely will make sense. Also, the market prices, it's collective intelligence. That thing about the combination of knowledge of the masses is greater than that of the select few. It appeared that Chris had calmed down quite a bit when I looked at her. She wiped her eyes with her sleeves, blew her nose, and appeared much more presentable. Yes, if you were to ask passers-by on the street to guess how many jelly beans were in a jar and took the average of their answers, you'd arrive at the exact answer. That was the level of logic upon which market price was founded. But I learned 4 years ago that the program in Chris's hand right now showed without a doubt that people weren't logical, and when you input those factors, it was able to extract profits. But why was it that Chris could have such faith in it without a shred of doubt? Chris was a genius who got accepted into Lunar City University. Or could it be that I was wrong? Also, anyone can hedge off of the energy cost increase. Chris said that as she gazed into the screen of her trading tool, now covered in red numbers, as if she were staring at a wound on her own body. But having this intellectual conversation seemed to have helped collect herself. So it's just that people are buying stocks at the energy exchange. No. Avalon's stock high has a stock gap at 13%. It's likely people think they'll be able to show gains if they invest into Avalon stock. Chris still showed a bit of the aftermath of her tears, and she said that happily as she tacked away on her tablet. Looks like it. Using an annual conversion, it shows that Avalon stock is increasing energy costs to increase manyfold. People, they should invest wisely before they start complaining. Chris seemed to have completely forgotten about her big losses as she said that innocently in front of her tablet data. Or this could simply be her way of cheering herself up. Either way, I stared at Chris's profile expressionlessly. That certainly wasn't because my face couldn't move. It felt as if I'd grasped onto the hidden reality. Avalon's growth increases the energy cost. Yes, exceeding it thoroughly, but Avalon is involved in a lot of stuff, so you could say it's the obvious outcome. It can't be. Chris was startled when I said that, and she looked at me. Huh? No, that's odd. Very odd. What is? I see. That's what it is. This is the face of that strangeness I felt. I looked at that data that Chris had pulled up as I thought that. People didn't need to consciously make logical calculations of a situation that they could do unconsciously. A lot of information crossed people's eyes, and unconsciously those gleanings affected them, even without experiencing the situation. This was the cause of the strangeness of Avalon's overall size that Eleanor had pointed out after looking over a lot of data. I spoke in a near whisper. Try multiplying it. Huh? This is supposed that Avalon controls the entire energy exchange for the highest sales, thus I'm thinking that Avalon stock is already too high. Chris made a face as if she wasn't sure what was being asked, then looked back down at her tablet screen. Avalon stocks are too high. She looked amazed as if to ask, what could you mean by that? Avalon stock is 130 times the PER and 7 times the PBR. PER being the profit rates for one stock, and PBR being the net asset magnification of one stock. This index compares the stock price of how much money would be calculated out and paid per stock if that business were to close down right at the moment. Meaning if Avalon were to shut down at that moment, then one stock would only give 1/7 its worth. As well, Avalon's aggregate market value had surpassed 30 billion mools, and sales had earned over 40 billion mools. These numbers were clearly too high. That wasn't comparative to other stocks. That would clearly show Avalon was too high, but stock prices were closely intertwined with the assumed futures, so it's not exactly the actual meaning of being too high. But there is the possibility that Avalon really is high according to the actual meaning. It was hard to tell if the numbers would have gone this high if all of the produced energy on the lunar surface was set at the current energy costs. Moreover, Avalon didn't have holdings on all power stations, and the rest was only gained through handling fees on the energy exchange. You just needed to take their commissions based on the volume in the energy exchange. It seemed that Chris couldn't explain Avalon's earnings as she looked over the data on her tablet. I wrote an email to Eleanor. She must have been at the hotel as her reply came rather quickly. I'll look it up. For a moment I was almost overtaken by relief, but I hastily sent her another email. Judging from what I heard from Toyama, Eleanor didn't have the time for this extra stuff. In actuality, she had reached out to me because she didn't. I wrote, I'll look it up on my end and send the results as they come, and please focus on your work. I also wrote, Risa will happily make more apple pies. Eleanor replied, I've gained quite a few reasons to continue working hard. Chris certainly didn't have the bad manners to steal glances at messages other people were sending. But she was still curious about what I was doing and was looking over this way. What are you doing? I glanced up at Chris when she asked that question. I hesitated for a moment, but then said something a bit off from the truth. A plan with Eleanor for short-selling Avalon. An investing method where you earn as the price declines. Of course, this method was also integrated into Chris's program, so she was a bit pouty when she replied. This is different from working with my trades? This is different from programmable trades. It's a long-term one. Chris puffed out her cheeks but ended up just sighing. Just then, Risa came by. Hey, you guys, did you see the news? I saw. They said the energy rates are going up. Is that so? Wasn't it that they were lowering the temperature? Seems that's going to make the prices go up. Isn't that just lovely? But was that from the news? When Risa asked, Chris looked up at her mischievously and said, We're traders, so information spreads quickly. It's like there are two Harus here. I stayed quiet aghast, and Chris leaned over to me smiling. More importantly, go take a bath before the chill hits. Chris, you need to get up early tomorrow, so off to bed. You'll catch cold when you go out. Okay. Her annoyed reply was just like a conversation between a mother and child caught up in their game. You too, Haru. I glared up at Risa with I'm almost 20 look on my face, but Risa just shrugged and walked away. So I think it's supposed to be with I'm almost 20 look on my face, but oh well. Chris gave a small sigh, turning off her tablet screen, and spoke when she stood up. I'll go take a shower first. After that, can you teach me countermeasures for tomorrow? Yeah. I feel depressed thinking about tomorrow. But that's all part of trading. Nothing is absolute. Chris turned from me and gave me another sigh. I'll take that to heart. I nodded, seeing Chris off. Chris's program was run mathematically, and at a certain level it involved no risk. But numbers were irrelevant in reality. If her program continued to run, then it could have gone through this storm without a scratch. But the fact that trades couldn't happen unless Chris was at the office wasn't a programming issue. While I was thinking that this point needed to be worked on next, I couldn't help but be pulled to something else in my head. That being the one stock located on my tablet, Avalon. I felt a swelling deep inside my chest. No doubt there was a secret in Avalon, that was certain. If that secret was exposed, then Eleanor's justice could be realized. It made me feel sentimental, probably because I wasn't able to save Hagana. Bought from Terra and brought over, she ran away from home and ended up troubling Risa as well. Then, just as soon as she had begun to believe for the first time in her life that she could be of use to someone, she was betrayed by me, her closest partner, and vanished in disappointment. Of course, even if I were to save Eleanor, Hagana wouldn't come back. I knew that, but still, Eleanor sought my help, and I wanted to do what I could for her. I thought that maybe I could repair the irreparable, even just a bit. That's how I felt. So, me taking on Avalon was also a clue to my own past. I felt a rush. I tacked on my tablet, looking for data that could serve as proof against Avalon, but I soon paused. Huh? I muttered that, having tried many times, but the result's always the same. Moments later, my tablet chimed, telling me I had received an email. It looked like it was from Eleanor. There was a big movement in the market, I see. I received a warning from Legoff about Chris's portfolio, but if you help, I'm sure it won't become a problem. I saw the newsflash you spoke about. I know you asked me to stick up to my work, and I apologize. I was quite curious and wasn't able to focus on it. However, I cannot find the data. The energy statistics of the lunar surface have been publicized for over 10 years. The only thing available is the minimal requirements to maintain the lunar capital. This can be confirmed on both our industries and the government's end. It appears that the amount of energy flowing through on the lunar surface has been calculated to be the same scale as a major metropolitan city on Terra. Also, the commission Avalon collects from the energy exchange should be about 3 billion mools a year, about 100 million mools a day, and trades with a fat 0.1%. The rest is all simple calculation. Difficult to believe it reaches 40 billion a year. Thus, the majority of their earnings are traditionally from selling energy. However, the fact that key data to Avalon's success is unpublished smells rather fishy, or it could just be me thinking too deeply into it. It was ridiculous to think Avalon had used pressure to keep the data confidential. 10 years ago, Avalon wasn't that large of a corporation. Eleanor had joked, but likely she felt discouraged. She went on. If so, then the only way may be to go to all the power stations and measure the energy output. Though it may take some time, infiltration is feasible. Logically sound, but would that be realistic? I wasn't able to think of a way other than what Eleanor proposed. If you could see something flowing, you could measure it, but you couldn't see electricity. Even most of the transmission lines were underground. No way to grasp it. Or this could be the reason why Avalon can lie so openly. No. We can't conclude that they're lying yet. I was tainted with preconceptions myself, but one thing did bother me. Can't be seen. Those words made me recall something strange, and I felt overcome with the sensation that I'm missing something. There was a tool to assist in finding that answer, I was sure of it, but I didn't know what that actually would be. I started digging through my own memory, looking for something that could be a clue. Cannot be seen. Flowing electricity. Inquire. Infiltration tactics. I went over each one, but nothing held firm. Just my imagination? Then I realized. Eleanor. I lifted my head up and said it again. Eleanor. This was it. But what about it? I frantically went over the conversations I had with Eleanor and finally recalled it. The fraudulent corporation we talked about at the Royal Central Hotel. Eleanor said the government would never approve the construction of a cannon platform. Why was that? It was because all land outside of lunar cities was owned by the government and there were regulations on its uses. That is to say, either observatories or power generation installations. Then wouldn't you be able to count those with the naked eye and get a correct answer? That would be a number nobody could fake. For a moment, it felt like this was the path down to everything, but I gasped as I came to a realization. The surface area of the moon was over 38 million square kilometers. Even the tiny major economic power of Japan, my parents' birthplace, was only 380,000 square kilometers. Also, I'd heard before that because it takes the moon 2 weeks to move between its noon and night cycle, the solar panel generation station was set fairly far from the cities. If it wasn't, then when it was night in the cities, it would be night for the solar panels and they wouldn't be able to generate electricity. Unless we could use satellites around the moon, it'd be impossible to even get a rough count, let alone an exact one. For a moment I gave up. So real quick, in case you're wondering about the energy generating stations, imagine, I mentioned before that the moon actually doesn't really orbit or rotate anything. It just, well, it orbits Earth, but it doesn't actually rotate. It's always the same face that's pointing towards the Earth and the same face that's pointing away. So, during the new moon and it's new moon and full moon, the moon is in a specific spot relative to the Earth. So during the new moon, you cannot see the moon at night because it's on the other side of Earth. As such, that's when the quote-unquote dark side, the side that's away from Earth, is actually receiving light. And then during the... Am I doing this correctly? During the full moon, that's when we see the moon in its entirety at night, and the side facing away from Earth is in darkness. And then keep in mind, since the moon doesn't orbit, there's a median area there that would, I guess, could be best described as like the equator of the moon. That would be the part that actually receives light more consistently than the other parts. And as a result, that's where you'll find the energy generating stations along this quote-unquote equator of the moon. For the cities, odds are they're actually facing the Earth. We can tell that from the way Toyama spoke, that he can see the moon but not the capital. And if we're on the dark side of the moon, well, even still, it would get really cold there depending on the position of the moon relative to the Earth. So, just in case you're wondering where the energy generating stations are relative to the city, we can actually tell that based on, not even just based on what they say in the story, just based on the physics of how the moon and the sun work around the Earth. So let's go back to the story. There was one other piece of information that Eleanor gave. Land requests. If there were restrictions on land usage, then there should have been an application and processing for that. Seeing that application should give an approximation of the scale of the available generators, the solar panel's performance should be about the same. The reason why Avalon could monopolize the energy generation sector was likely because the wall's participation was so low. Unlike on Terra, nuclear, geothermal, and hydropower all required large-scale capital funding and required to create generation stations. Here, all you need to do is drop it in a panel and send it to the lines headed off to the capital. It would also be the perfect tool if they were lying to reveal that line in one fell swoop. That's because you could frame up their energy output on your wall from the total volume of their applied and purchased land. Instantly, you'd be able to tell how much of their earnings were coming from the energy sector. But therein lay the biggest problem. How could one check over those application documents? After thinking a bit, I recalled that Eleanor confirmed to the government office that she had checked whether the fraudulent corporation she tossed aside had applied for the cannon installation. I relayed to Eleanor what I had come up with and asked if she could check on it. This time it took a moment before she replied. I passed the time by looking over Chris's linked program data, and after 10 minutes Eleanor had written back to me. I do believe that was a wonderful revelation. However, the government office data is divided into wards, meaning it's impossible to inquire about the land It's possible to inquire which land has applications for its usage, but there's no way to ask which company gave what applications. I did have quite a bit of trouble with the government office when looking up that fraudulent company. I believe this may be because of the method in which the government offices handled their data. Damn it. I'd experienced firsthand with exactly how terrible the government offices were at handling data. There was a huge demand from Terran immigrants, so paper documents were still used at many of them, and it got to the point where the office couldn't keep up. So it stood to reason that they'd mark land into classifications. Company names change frequently, as do company owners. There'd definitely be no change in assignment if it was land from those points. Except it would be possible to use infiltration tactics with this method as well, so I'll do a bit of digging, but there may be limitations just from the state of affairs. The moon is smaller than Terra, but it is still quite large. Eleanor's email ended with that disheartening sentence. I regret that I came up with just may have brought up Eleanor's hopes for a moment. I thought it still might be possible if I were to directly peek into the database. Directly? One thing came to mind which could make that possible. Relationships. Your connections to others were one of your assets. I sent Eleanor, I'll look it up on my end. Don't feel too down about it. She replied with, thank you very much. I tapped on my tablet and displayed the contact information. No experience is worthless, I thought as I looked up Raina's contact information.